Hi, I'm Jeff, this is Tropical Plants at 53 degrees north, and today we're going to talk about a very popular orchid throughout the world, Burrageara Nelly Isler, and mine is Swiss Beauty. Sometimes it's known as Oncidopsis, sometimes it's known as Cambria Nelly Isler, seems to have several names, and we're going to discuss its care needs, and we're going to do a little repot, have a look at the roots, see how it's doing, and I'm going to talk to you about one or two of the problems I'm having with it. Let's get to it. And we're in. So this here, kind of a sorry looking specimen at the moment, is my Burrageara. I did used to say Burrageara until I looked it up and found that the guy that it was named after went by the name of Albert, and I can only read it as Albert Burrage, so that would kind of suggest it's Burrageara. He first grew this in 1927. He was the first to grow it. Anyway, before we get into the nitty gritty, let's just have a look at the label. So there we go, Burrageara Nelly Isler Swiss Beauty. 719 refers to when I bought it. So I bought it in July 2019. And I can honestly say it's been in bloom right the way up until yesterday when I cut the last spike off. So that's pretty good going, isn't it, really? That's pretty good bang for your buck. If you're new to my channel, click the subscribe button, ding the notification bell, and you won't miss any updates. I really thought everything was going swimmingly up until this last week. I've taken a closer look and noticed all these blackening leaves here, and I think I've got some reasons for this, and I'm going to discuss that in a while, or as things progress. I've also unpotted it and discovered one or two other issues. I'll just take that out there. As you can see, I've got two pieces. I didn't realise there were two pieces. This is obviously how it's come, how it's arrived. A lot of these roots are dead, which we'll have a dig into in a while. So it needs some attention, doesn't it? So I'll just pop it back in, and I'll just tell you a little bit about it first of all. I'll give it its story and kind of try and put things into context. So this is one of the world's most distributed oncidiums. It goes by several names, as we've already talked about, because it's an intergeneric hybrid. So it's a cross between 4 different genera: Oncidium, Miltonia, Odontoglossum, and Cochleoda. I've not heard of a Cochleoda before. It's only developed these blackening leaves this last week. The reason for that is that I've had it in what is now the cool side of my greenhouse. So I'll just lift you up a second. So what we've got here is, let's go through the doors. This is the cold section, or the cool section of the greenhouse. I'll try and keep the camera as steady as I can. And this was kept at 12 degrees. Like the whole of the greenhouse was kept at 12 degrees until I split it off. And now what I've done, in an attempt to grow things in conditions that suit them better, is I have this door which completely partitions off part of the greenhouse, and that over there is now the warm side, and the side we've just come from is the cool side. So just to bring you back again, in doing that, I have turned the cool side down so that it's now probably, initially I was hoping for like 10 degrees, but unfortunately money does play a part. And I've kept turning it down a little bit and turning it down a little bit, so that certainly this last few weeks in February, the temperatures outside have been very cold. They've been consistently below 5 degrees, usually frosty at night, below 5 degrees Celsius during the day. And that's put rather a lot of strain on the heater over there, which is only on 1 kilowatt at the moment. So the temperatures have dropped to 8 degrees some nights, and I've since discovered that Burrageara Nelly Isler is an intermediate. So it was growing great at a minimum of 12, but as soon as you get it down to 8 degrees, it doesn't really like it much, and that may be what's responsible for these dead roots. I've not really looked at them all properly yet. We'll have a look at them in a while, but from the looks of them, they all look dead. There's no new growths, only that one, and that came quite a while back. It's not just produced that. So what's caused the blackening of the leaves? Well, Burrageara Nelly Isler also are not big fans of direct sunshine, and it's now mid-March. I'm filming this on the 9th of March, and we're at a really strange time in the greenhouse. It's like a time of transition because the sun is getting higher in the sky. My greenhouse is kind of south facing, and I've had this, even though, you know, outside temperatures during the day still below 5 degrees, but this, we had a sunny week last week. We had like 5 days of sunshine, so it was frosty at night, really cold, but this was in direct line of the sunshine, and temperatures were still only going up to about 20 in here, but it was getting the direct sunshine. And you know, various orchids, different orchids have different tolerances, don't they? Some might be called an intermediate, but they still might tolerate lower temperatures. Some might be said to be kept out of direct sunlight. Now I've not got, you know, I've got multiple layers of bubble wrap on there, so it's not direct through glass without any kind of, you know, it is diffuse light, it's diffuse sunlight, but here's your result. Now all my other orchids, there is nothing has happened on them yet, and I was touch and go with to put some shading up, but I didn't. I kept off it, probably because it felt so cold outside. But this one has suffered. It doesn't like it. You can see, you know, what's happened to it. So that's my first tip. Do not put Burrageara Nelly Isler into direct sunlight, because that's what you'll get. Even if the temperatures are cold outside, even if it's a little bit diffuse, it doesn't like it. It likes to stay out of it. It likes medium to bright light levels, so I believe, so I've read. What I'm going to do with this is two things. First thing is going to come over here into the warm side, and second thing, it's going to stay out of direct sunlight. That should hopefully prevent it from doing what it's done. Now, why have the roots died? Well, I think that's possibly because of the temperature, because I had it for about a month. I had it at 8 degrees at night time, and I think that's what's killed that off. So it's worth a try, isn't it? So I've already talked about some of the care needs there, but we'll get into a little bit more detail. So we've said it's intergeneric. We've said it comes from the 4 different genera of orchid. We've said who it's named after. It flowered a long time, you know, right from July right up until this last week. I've just cut the last bloom off it, and I could have left it a bit longer, but I could see it was a little bit wobbly in the pot. So I have sacrificed the remaining blooms to try and save the orchid. Not an easy thing to do, but it's obviously necessary. It is a fragrant orchid. I absolutely love the smell of this, especially when the sun is out in the greenhouse. You can really smell throughout the whole greenhouse. When it had a couple of spikes on over summertime, it was just glorious. It filled the greenhouse with scent. Difficult to describe the scent. I've heard some people say it's like a soapy scent. I'm not good at describing scent. I don't know. It smelled nice to me anyway. Care. So let's go through the various recommended care points that are worth noting. So it's watering. It's meant to be kept fairly moist. It certainly doesn't like to be bone dry for days on end. So that gives you an indication of the kind of media it likes. Now, if I just lift this out here, the one that I've got here, I've not repotted this, so this is come in a mixture of, I don't know if you can see that, just move you back a little bit. This is a mixture of very fine bark, unless it's broken down, and I think this is pumice, looks like it. Now I would say, from what I've read, that really isn't a particularly good mix for it. You can see from that one, it started off in sphagnum moss. I wonder, that might have a plug down there as well. It probably has in the centre, and it does look like this media is broken down anyway. It wants, I'll just have a sniff. I'm not really sure what I'm sniffing for when I sniff it, but I can certainly smell something. I would expect if it's broken down, you get some kind of aroma to it. If it's not broken down, you tend not to get much, or at least my nose doesn't. And I've heard people say it should smell like, if it smells like mushrooms, then it's gone off. Well, I'm not really sure what mushrooms smell like. But anyway, that's me. So to me, I think that's probably, by the looks of it, that's broken down anyway. It is an orchid that builds up salts. It really doesn't like a lot of salt build up, so it's definitely one to flush while we're talking about the watering. So we try to keep it moist, but not sopping wet. So it's a fine line, that, isn't it, really? I tend to let it dry out for a day and then give it a water. But clearly, and it's worked. It's worked for the majority of the months that I've had it. It's just this last month when the temperatures, I think, have got too low for it, and that's what's caused this to happen. So whether I can rescue this or not, we will have to see. So that's the watering. Media, again, while we're talking about media, you can plant it straight into sphagnum and perlite. The sphagnum is obviously to keep it moist. While I'm talking about that, I'll show you the mix that I'm going to put it in. So I don't have any perlite, I've run out. So what I'm using here, I've got long fibred sphagnum moss. That's to keep it moist. For the bulk of it, because I know what my greenhouse is like. I'm growing orchids in a completely wrong place here. I'm in the north of England, and it's a temperate climate, and it's very cold during the winters. And I can't afford to keep, even the warm end of the greenhouse, I can't afford to keep it, above 18 degrees. So I know it's going to get cool at some point. So I'm going to have some bark in there to bulk it out and to let it allow it to have some drainage. I've recently discovered the difference between vermiculite and perlite, if anybody's interested. So they both do a similar job. They're both made of completely different materials, but they do a similar job. So both vermiculite and perlite are there to improve both aeration and water retentiveness. Now they seem to be opposite to each other, but they're not. You need air to get to the roots, and air can get to the roots if you've got a medium like this that allows the water to pass through, but it also keeps hold of some of the water as well. I know it sounds contradictory. The difference between the perlite and the vermiculite is perlite is heavier out of the two properties, aeration and water retentiveness. Perlite is heavier on the aeration, not quite as good at the water retentiveness, and vermiculite is heavier on the water retentiveness as opposed to the aeration. So if you've got a plant that prefers more of a moist media, then vermiculite is the better of the two things to go for. If you have a plant that prefers to be more on the side of being aerated, like succulents and the like, then you're better going for the perlite. So I've gone for vermiculite because that's what I've got. So I've got some aeration here, I've got some water retentiveness. Vermiculite also helps to hold on to some nutrients as well. So this mix won't necessarily work for everybody in every situation. It might not even work for me. This is just me kind of trying to be logical about it and putting together what I think it's going to need in this side of the greenhouse. So that's media. So light we've discussed. We know it doesn't need very, very bright light. The books say medium light. Mine was doing really, really well, like I say, up to the last three or 4 weeks. Temperatures, it's classed as an intermediate, so we would say 12 degrees Celsius up to 26 degrees Celsius. And while we're discussing it, I will put some, if I've not already, I will put some photos up of what it looked like when it was in full bloom. If I can find a little bit of video, I might stick that in as well. Multiple flower spikes throughout the year. It will flower more than once during the year. It does not like direct sunlight, as we can see. This has literally happened over 1 week to create that. I guess, you know, if it was already losing its roots, it would have been quite weakened anyway. You can see some of these pseudobulbs are beginning to desiccate because obviously the roots have rotted because it was so cold and in a weakened state. Get the sun on it and it's begun to blacken the leaves. I'm confident we can rescue it. It's supposed to be very, very vigorous, as I can attest to. So hopefully get it in the right conditions, in the right media, I'll get it to recover. Fertiliser, as all orchids, it isn't a heavy feeder, or most orchids, it isn't a heavy feeder. Easier to overfeed it than underfeed it. So the recommendation is half dosage twice a month, and make sure you flush regularly to get those salts out because it is prone to salt buildup. It thrives in high humidity, so this side of the greenhouse again will be better for it because this is where I've got the fogger and I keep it above 75% humidity. Having said that, it did have a lot of high humidity over in the cold end, but like I said, temperatures were too low for it. So that's all the care needs of this plant, this orchid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little maul about with it. I'll just move you in a bit closer. And I'm going to try and get down to this definitely well broken down media. Look at that. I mean, it's crumbling. And I'm going to see if we can find any living roots in there. And I'm going to repot it. So let's tuck in and see what we can find. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to grow in that. I think, looking at this anyway, that, you know, this media that it's in, it's just very broken down. I know a lot of growers, when they first receive them from the, I might take that off. In fact, I'm going to take that away. When they first receive the plant from wherever they're going to buy it from, or where they bought it from, the first thing they do is they take all the media away and they repot it, don't they? Well, I've not done that up until now, and I think that might be something I need to look at. But the thing is, if it's looking healthy, I think to myself, well, let's just hang on a bit. I mean, they've all gone. There's nothing there. Whether it's worth leaving any of these, I don't really know. So it's whether this one with its new growth there, whether this one will provide some new roots. At the moment, it ain't looking good, is it? Oh, it'll be such a shame. It's a brilliant plant, this was. I think it will. I'm going to be positive. I think that's not soft. It doesn't look very promising, I have to say, but okay. So somehow I'm going to get that into a pot, and somehow I'm just wondering whether that should go in the same pot at the moment, because this one at the moment anyway seems to have a lot more going for it, although by the time I've finished it might not do. Well, these are looking pretty dead. The question is, do I take them off and then I've got the problem of trying to anchor it in the pot, or do I leave a few on and then at least it might stay upright? I'm reluctant to put them in different pots just because it's more to look after, isn't it? I don't want two specimens. I want them both together. They look really good together. I think, to be honest, I'll cut some of them off. I'll just kind of shorten them, but I don't want to cut them all off because I want something in there just to kind of hold it in a little bit. I can't see that causing too much problems, having those there. I think if it's going to grow new roots, it's not like there's no space for new roots to come. I'm sure these plants in the wild have dead roots and nobody goes along pulling them all out and pulling them to pieces. So I'm aware they're dead, but I'm going to leave them just to try and give it some anchorage. Right, so that one definitely needs some anchorage. That one might not be too bad. Might kind of hold each other together. So yeah, we've said, what have we got here? That's the new growth, so I'm going to try and put that on the outside. I'll leave the rest. Let's just tidy it up a little bit. This side, which is the new side, not the old one. I mean, it's not much of a rhizome really, is it? It's not really travelled so far. I can't really tell here which is new and which is old until it does something. No, just have to turn the fan off. Okay, so I know that side is going to go on the outside, so we'll put that against this one, but I'm not really sure here which is the new and which is the old, which direction it's travelling. I mean, you would think, well, if that side's just bloomed, that must be the newer end and that must be the older end, mustn't it? Is it worth keeping there? We'll keep it. So we're looking at them going together like that. Now the pot that I've got is actually smaller than that one, only ever so slightly, but the reason is A, I haven't got one any bigger, but B, and I would have done this anyway, it's no roots. Even when it had the dead roots on it, it was kind of only up to there. Again, this might be another reason why it didn't thrive with its roots. So it had, like, all this section was just media with no roots in it, which could have acted as a kind of a sump. So the water was in there and it wasn't, the moisture was in there and it wasn't drying out at all. I'm guessing, I don't know, but that's a possibility. So what we will do, let's just get these out the way and we will repot it. I'll be getting a reputation for killing orchids off. But it's all a learning process, isn't it? It's an iterative process of learning what various genera of orchids, how they live, what they like to, what conditions they like. Because you can have books that tell you one thing, not books that tell you something else. But even if you follow the best advice from the best books, what these books can't and don't know is what your own conditions are. It's very often down to, like, the microclimate that you live in. You know, not just locally, but like ultra locally, as in You know, I could have it in one area of the garden at one point and then have it in another area of the garden at another point, and it'd be completely different. Well, that's what I mean by microclimates, like really ultra specific, because that can change everything. And we can still see that. Now, as far as anchorage goes, actually seems to be pretty reasonable. Okay, it's not wobbling. I think because the rhizome hasn't really spread much, doesn't seem to be a kind of a spreading rhizome. Oh. Now, just see there, don't know if you can just see, I've just spotted, there is a new growth coming there, so I've got it on the right way. So hopefully the fact that there's a new growth coming means that it will chuck out some new roots. The best time to repot these, as many orchids, really would be when you do see the new growths, because you know then it's beginning to, because once it does new growths, it then also grows new roots at the same time. So we've got that one. I keep going off camera there. We've got that one, that's one new growth, and then we've another one on this side coming there. The way this orchid's growing, its particular habit tells me that it's not going to need loads of space. You know how some of them, like bulbophyllums, go off like shooting in like various directions, and it's very difficult to get a pot big enough and shallow enough to accommodate them. Well, this doesn't seem to be one like that. So that's it. It's potted. I'm quite happy with that. It doesn't seem to need to be any more sturdy than that. It's fine. I'll live with it a bit, and if I need to change it, if I feel like it's getting a bit wobbly, I'll do something with it. But for now, I'm quite happy with that. And let's see if we can get these leaves. I mean, obviously they're not going to change now. By the way, I did try spraying it with a fungicide. The first thing that I did when I saw that was, oh, it could have a fungus, let's spray it with a fungicide. But I really don't think now, having read up a little bit more about them, I think it's the sun that's caused that, because it's literally only come over a week. We had 1 week of sunshine, and ta-da, that's your result. So I will write a new label out, put the new date on there for the repot. So I've even got the keep over 12 degrees Celsius. And even though they say that various orchids, some of them are a little bit more tolerant than others. And I did start with 12 degrees, but as time's gone on, I've let the temperature in the cool side drop. Just a money thing, really. But you live and learn, don't you? So that's what I've learned about this one. It's only by these things happening that you improve your own skills and you increase your own knowledge. And I've no doubt that at some point in the future, everything that I've learned about this plant, I'll forget again, because that's the way I am. You learn things, you forget them, you relearn them. So I hope I don't have to buy a new one of these, because it's well worth, getting for anybody. If you can give it the right conditions, it really will reward you. So that's Burrageara Nelly Isler. This one was Swiss Beauty. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please, by all means, stick in the comments, let me know what you think, let me know what your experiences are with this fabulous intergeneric orchid. And for now, that is it. I will see you on the next one. Bye.